Vadim Kramov, I mean, going back, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, you're in London, you're sitting here today in Odessa, hearing what the panel's saying. I mean, in terms of bringing funds into Ukraine, I mean, what were you seeing in London and what you're hearing today? I mean, is there any correlation to this?
Well, let's first of all say that there are no branches of Bank of America in Ukraine, as far as you noticed. There is no Bank of America in Ukraine at all. But Ukraine business is the third largest business for Bank of America in the region, after Russia and Turkey. So we had a massive amount of transaction in 2013, 2012, and before that. So there is a strong interest to continue this business. We primarily do fixed income instruments, currencies, and use of the local debt. Clearly the crisis changed the situation a lot, but I talk to a lot of investors, as Tim does, I would say, on an everyday basis. Our clients were involved in debt restructuring procedure, and clearly we are following the situation very closely. As you said, the major concern for us from macro perspective is first of all recovery and capital inflows and foreign direct investment that should take place, but there are a lot of risks over here. I would say all my colleagues are relatively optimistic. I would say from the investor perspective, from our clients to whom I talk, there is a difference between optimistic and being hopeful. I would say many people are very hopeful that Ukraine can make it, but I would say there are a lot of challenges ahead. If you look a little forward, right, we don't really expect any quick recovery, unfortunately, in Ukraine. So it's going to be so-called L-shaped recovery, in a sense that growth will not pick up quickly because industrial base in eastern regions is destroyed. There is no way it can recover quickly. Clearly, currency devaluation is a good incentive for exports, but so far we don't really see it in data. Exports doesn't really go up, unfortunately, right? So as Tim said, current account is roughly balanced. We project small deficit for this year and next year, and we still think that structurally current account deficit will take place, but very small, depending on energy prices. Looking forward, we're relatively on the pessimistic side for the next year. We expect zero growth next year. You can say it might be a little bit positive just because the base of this year is very low. But looking forward, it will take some time for Ukraine's economy to go up. I would say potential growth rates can be from 3 to 5% a year, depending on reforms, depending on capital inflows and the FDIs. I would say from our clients' perspective, the major concern is capital inflows. So debt restructuring deal is over, almost all, clearly subject to the approval of bondholders, but I'm pretty hopeful that it will be finished. All financing that Ukraine receives is clearly IMFs and other IFIs. But if you look forward just 4 years down the road and you look at the financing needs, Ukraine would probably have to issue about $3 billion a year in Eurobonds, meaning Ministry of Finance would have to borrow externally roughly $3 billion a year just to finance IMF program and all loans it took currently, right? So it's a tough decision. I don't really know many countries issuing $3 billion every single year on a 10-year horizon, right? It's relatively tough. So all this official debt that Ukraine received would have to be substituted with private sector debt. This is the goal of the IMF program. That's how the IMF works, and that's what they want to do. It's a very challenging task, frankly, and it's a very challenging task. So we talked with Sergey about NBU reserves, because clearly IMF gave some money to boost reserves. And the way to compensate and pay out of reserves in the future is our capital inflows, right, and FDI. So this is clearly the major concern for us. When you see Ukraine on TV, on European channels, and you see conflict in the East, war with Russia, this is not a good environment for investment, unfortunately, right? So risks are relatively high. Investors, FDI investors are clearly concerned that frozen conflict will remain and pressures from Russia will continue. I would say from investors' perspective, you can say, even if there is a frozen conflict, that is fine to invest money in the country. There are numerous examples across the world that frozen conflict persists. There is additional risk premium for it, but people still do invest money in these countries. Problem is that Russia will be putting pressures, and this is not just a frozen conflict. When people think about it, like clients I talk to, they basically say, if Russia's goal is to undermine the credibility of reforms and investment in this country, it will be in pressures, unfortunately, right? So that's why you need double effort to overcome it. I'm pretty optimistic on my personal side about what can happen in this country 5 years down the road, but still you have probably a few years of very tough economic reforms that you just started. From international perspective, you're just in the beginning. Over the last year and a half, clearly we see probably one of the best governments Ukraine ever had. That's no question about it. National Bank of Ukraine is extremely good in terms of monetary policy decisions and normalizing macro-financial situation. Clearly, exchange rate devaluation was necessary to the levels it took place. That was very tough. The next phase should be gradual easing of capital controls over the next year or year and a half. The faster it happens, the better. We personally disagree with the IMF that reserves has to be boosted massively and quickly. We think capital controls should be eased and reserve accumulation should go on a much slower basis, letting the economy grow. If it happens over time, over the next 12 months, you might see some boost in confidence, looking forward. And that might bring some investment in the country. Clearly, from investors' perspective in fixed income instruments, yields are very attractive. Clearly, it's a risk-reward ratio. I think it's a matter of time when more people will be getting in, people will forget about the conflict, and they will be more focused on the reforms that are taking place right now.
Alexander Rolchishtin, ICU, let me bring you in this. Do you agree with Vadim about this L-shaped growth?